Okay, before we start, I just want to get verbal confirmation that we're all right to film this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a Langston Boulevard Legacy Business interview conducted by the Langston Boulevard Alliance and made possible by a historic preservation grant from Arlington County, Virginia. Today's date is April 11th, 2024. We are on site at the Northside Veterinary Clinic. My name is Bennett King, and I'm a research assistant for Langston Boulevard Alliance. And so what we're going to do now is just have you guys introduce yourselves and then talk about your role here.
Okay.
My name is Fiona McClure. I'm a veterinarian. I am from New Zealand, and I came over in 1997 after graduating vet school and met Adam at Cornell University, where I was doing specialty training, and then we fell in love and got married.
The end.
Had two
Yeah,
children. And I used to work at another clinic until we had a daughter, and then we started working together.
She'd done specialty work, and then when we had our first child, and we decided that it'd be kind of nice for one of us to always be home, and then the other would be at work, so we got to kind of divide and conquer, and we're still doing it.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, so that was 18 years ago. Longer than 18.
We'll get into the whole history of the business too in just a second.
Cool.
So let's get your introduction.
I'm Adam McClure.
And you can look at me. You don't have to look that. Pretend that's not there.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Oh, I was
It looks.
looking at that.
It's all right. It looks better if you're looking at me.
Yeah,
It
right.
looks more natural.
Yeah, we are not
Oh
natural.
boy, that's what I meant to ask you for. I was like, where do I look?
So I'm Adam McClure, and I was, what else did you want to
Just what you do here.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I'm a veterinarian and owner.
An owner. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about, tell us about yourself. We'll start with you, Adam. Where did you grow up? Because I think you're from here.
Yes.
So let's start with you. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about your family, your history in the neighborhood here.
Yeah, okay, great. So I was born in Fairfax, Virginia, and I spent a lot of time here though because this was my dad's clinic before me. So so I would come in and help out, etc. And then I went away for school for undergrad, and vet school, and then came back. And I had worked at another clinic for a little less than a year when then I ended up coming over here. I knew I was going to ultimately end up here anyways, and then I just came over and took over from my dad.
Oh, that's great. And let's go and get a little bit. Where are you from? It sounds like someplace
yeah.
other than here.
Yeah. I'm from New Zealand.
Okay. Which part of New Zealand are you from?
Christchurch, New Zealand.
Okay, yeah.
All my family's there still,
Okay.
other than my newly made family.
Right.
Okay. What do you remember the reason for why your dad started in this neighborhood?
Yes, he inherited. So the clinic started in 1949.
Oh, okay.
Yep, by a different family. So a gentleman named C.K. Francis, and he started it. And then his son, Dave Francis, took over from him.
Okay.
And then they actually had another clinic as well. So the family had two clinics. And then they entered into a partnership with my father, with that family, the Francis family, and then a third veterinarian as well. And the three of them had the two practices.
Okay.
And then in the late 80s, they dissolved that partnership. And then my dad ended up with Northside outright.
Okay. So late 80s, this became. Was it always Northside?
Always Northside.
Always Northside. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But just your dad took it over full time.
Exactly. Now, why it started in 1949 here with the Francis family, I don't know.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, that's good enough. We'll take all the information you get. If
Yep.
you don't know some of it, that's fine. So let's talk about how you got into the industry. What were the influences? It sounded like you were working here. Did you always know you wanted to do it? Was that? And then just tell us how you got going with it, I guess.
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to be a vet, and I would come in to help out here. I never had an official job here. I would find that each time that I would come in with my dad, I would be out sweeping the parking lot or cleaning out the gutters.
Yeah.
Dad, when am I going to see the animals? He's like, well, I need you to do these other jobs for me, please. So then suddenly playing basketball and being with my friends kind of became a little more fun
Yeah.
coming in with Dad.
Yeah.
But the seed was planted for sure, and I just knew, I think it's in my genes
Okay.
that I was going to do it.
Okay.
And it just naturally progressed.
Okay. How about you, Fiona? How did you end up getting to where you're at today with the veterinary science?
I was just a horse-loving teenager in New Zealand and thought I always loved animals in general. I wanted to be a vet, and I thought I'll be a horse vet. But once I went through vet school, I'm like, oh no, I like cats and dog medicine better. And then I graduated and worked for a while, and then went back to the university in New Zealand to do specialisation. in internal medicine.
Okay.
And then that led me to the best place in the world to become more specialised, and that's where I ended up in New York.
You talk about Cornell, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anywhere in America, Northern America is like your key.
for specialization.
Yeah, internal medicine or just general
Okay.
specialisation in veterinary medicine.
Okay. What year did you guys meet?
Golly, 1999?
Yeah.
1999, I have my plane ticket already. Then he walked in and I'm like, oh, let's change the ticket. Let's go
A
to
day or two.
California,
Yeah.
have fun and come back.
Oh wait, there's a story there. You guys moved to California for a while?
Yeah.
No, I was, my ticket was California, New Zealand.
Oh, I see.
You always
Yeah,
stop,
yeah, yeah.
and I was going to go do roller coasters with my sister and friend. So we did, but then they went to New Zealand and I turned around and went back
Okay.
to New York. Waited for...
Which roller coaster did you do? All of them?
Oh, I remember one we did with Superman.
Oh, in
Yeah,
Magic
it
Mountain?
was, and where was it? Magic Mountain. Yeah, you know. Have you lived in?
I'm from San Diego. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's a long time ago though, so
Yeah.
I have a hard time remembering. But we did a bunch.
Okay. Did you do anything else besides veterinary sciences? Any other work? You guys were right into it ever since. Okay, great. That eliminates a whole set of questions.
Yeah. Boring can be good then.
Okay, so tell us about, if you guys were to describe, I'll let you each have a try at this. If you describe the business we're in, what are you known for? How are you known maybe in the community? Fiona, let's start with you on this one.
We would be known as personalized care, kind of like part of the family. They're part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of their family. Primary care, basic care. We're here to pick up the phone pretty quickly to chat with them with problems.
Mm-hmm.
Really good personalized care.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. I think that's what we feel very strongly about is, that, and thank goodness there's still a need for it, I think,
Mhm.
that personalized care.
Yeah.
People knew my dad, know us now,
Yeah.
know personal things about us as well, too, and I felt like I was going to say one more thing about that. Oh yeah, we call ourselves a Northside family. A lot of times when we sign off on emails and
Mhm.
such, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's so true because it encompasses the staff as well.
Okay.
I've had so many of them. I've been here for so long, too.
Okay.
So.
Well, that leads me to a question about who are your clients? Like, what's the clientele? You're talking about a family that known your parents before you, I guess. So tell us about your clientele at this place.
Yeah, I would argue first on that. Just say, people that live mostly in the neighborhood, but also just in the greater area as
Okay.
well. With DC being so close and in Maryland, and then even when people move, sometimes too, we'll be fortunate enough that they'll still fight traffic and come in and see us. So, but I think it starts locally and then word of mouth there as well too.
Okay, great. And what's a typical day look like here? What are you doing most of the day? But let's take you on that one.
A typical day is just seeing appointments in two kind of blocks, morning and evening. In the middle of the day is more reserved for urgent care cases or surgeries, dentistry, admixed in all of that, a lot of phone calls, email correspondence, refilling prescriptions, trying to stay current on reading and current events.
Is it do you just do the smaller animals? You don't do large. You don't get to do the horses like you wanted to.
No.
And no exotics either. We just do dogs.
Just
and cats.
dogs.
We haven't had anything weird here. We had a guinea pig or two.
Yes.
Usually a client that already comes to see us.
Yeah, needs it put to sleep.
In New Zealand, I had a few lambs and calves come to the clinic and plonked on the table, and I was supposed to know what to do. And the further you get away from school, the less you know what to do. They lived. I think they were cute.
At least they were alive when they left.
That's right.
I would be like, now, so long ago.
Okay, so let's start with we understand your connection to the business. This was your father's business before you. Anybody else involved? Like, do you remember his partners? Do you remember those days? Like, what that was like?
Just as a child, memories as a child kind of thing. Yeah, I think things to compare then to now, things were much more chaotic back then.
Oh, really? Why is
there's
that?
a lot more. Veterinary medicine has changed a little bit, at least in an area like this, where there was even a time where they didn't, you didn't need to make an appointment. You could just come in whenever you wanted.
Yeah.
The doctor would be there to see you. So it'd just be very, very busy. And then my dad learned, and he passed it on to me, the value of trying to control as best as you can your day and your appointments.
Yeah.
It's not only better for you, but it's better for the client's
Yeah.
experience and the animal's experience too. Try to keep it really quiet out in the lobby by spacing everything apart. And there are more veterinarians around, right? And there are emergency clinics and specialists. They used to have to do everything.
Yeah.
And then we don't anymore, so, which is good.
So let's talk about what you remember about the early days. Like, why did your dad? You remember why your dad got into it and why he ended up like starting this firm with his friend or with the partners? And what do you remember about that?
Yeah, his dad was a veterinarian.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So,
Third generation already.
yeah, exactly. And he had a practice up in Maryland.
Okay.
And so my dad kind of had it in his genes as well, knew he wanted to do it. And then, but he wanted to do it on his own. He didn't want to inherit his dad's practice.
Okay.
And so he started off after he graduated in '69. He did mixed animal for a while, so a large animal, and that was in Maryland. And then he knew he wanted to just do dogs and cats.
Okay.
And now how he and Dave Francis met, I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, they met, and then he came in.
Okay.
You probably met fishing sometime.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
socialite. Yeah.
Did you know you were getting into a family business when you guys were dating? Was this something that came up?
Well, I met his dad, but I was always going the specialty route, so I didn't think things would turn out like this. Yeah.
What is when you say specialty route? What were you looking to do, or what were you studying for that you were going to do?
And then I did work as a specialist for a long time. I was working in a big, what's called a referral practice, where there's lots of different specialists. And just like in human medicine where they'll refer you to like a kidney specialist or something,
I see.
well then someone would send me a case to look at and help, but then the case comes back to the primary care physician, general practitioner for everything, follow up and stuff like that. So I was just more interested in internal medicine is everything inside the body and pretty much except the heart and the neurological system. So I liked hormonal diseases and gastrointestinal problems and liver problems, things like that.
And then when did you start? You said it sounded like you guys took a break. So there was a break. One of you was taking a break. Were you taking a break or you taking a break?
Well, when we first moved here to Fairfax, and then looking here, I was at Southpaws, which is a
Okay, so you were
referral
at a
clinic.
different place. Okay.
I was at one clinic, then I was at Southpaws for about 5 years.
Okay.
And then I went on maternity leave, and then after that I switched over to here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then we kind of job shared, where one would work the morning, one would work the afternoon.
That's what
and
you meant by
Adam
it. I
got
see,
kind
yeah.
of time at home with kids.
Yep.
Okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
What was the transition like for you from the other place to here?
Oh, it was very different, but I had done general practice
Okay.
when I first graduated, so I kind of relearned it. I still do quite a bit of internal medicine. The cases that come to see me now kind of gravitate towards the more geriatric or complicated or second opinion. Adam wants me to look at one of his cases, or Dr. Hahn is our other veterinarian. So right now my role is actually becoming more specialty work within the practice again.
Okay.
Yeah, only with it not taking external.
No
second
external,
opinions,
yeah, it's
it's
only
all
our
just
clientele.
generated. Yeah.
Okay. Where did the name come from? You may not know this. Do you know where it came from?
Yeah, I think. And is that it's in North Arlington. So that's
Just north side. That's
so
simple.
then it became North Side. Exactly.
Yeah,
The other one was South Side.
So
My
there was.
nickname.
Oh, it wasn't ever called.
That's Arlington Animal Hospital.
Oh, I thought they changed
Yeah.
that. Okay.
So they nicknamed
Cut
the other
that
one
bit out, 'cause I don't know
South
anything
Side.
about the history.
And why we don't know is because, so my dad, the plan was that we were going to overlap and for however many years, right? And he would phase out and teach me all this knowledge and everything after I had graduated. Why I came over after being at the other practice for less than a year is because he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Okay.
He was 55 at the time. So he had to stop working, so it was really advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why he stopped Friday night. I started Saturday morning, And then he passed away when he was 59, which was 2005, yeah. So if any of this is, I don't have him as a resource to ask, so that's why I think I remember him saying that. So.
Yeah, and really this is just about your memories too, that's what we're trying to get. So, so you took over. What year was that? It was
01.
01. Yep. Okay, great. What are your memories from your youth of being at this place besides having to sweep and
That's what I remember. I remember. Kind of back to what I was saying, where there were a lot, saw a lot more and did a lot more too, of just watching them do surgery.
You would go and watch the surgery?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I remember that the most, and just the friendliness. I remember even back then as well, of just the same faces that I would see of people working for my dad and such. They all knew me and watched me grow up, and I remember that. And then I remember there was a little tavern down there. He would reward me for sweeping and cleaning out gutters by taking me for the little hamburgers. And that was down by the pawn shop.
Yeah. Oh, all the way down there, yeah. Yeah. Has that pawn shop, that's been there a while, hasn't it?
It's been as long as I can remember.
Yeah. We'll have to interview them. I bet they got some stories about some sort of going.
Yeah, right. You could ask them what their best, thing that was submitted to them.
Well, that's one of my next question to you guys is tell me about some good story. You don't have to get into details, but what are some of your biggest memories or what do you guys remember most maybe about working here?
Boy, you want to go first?
No.
Yeah, right. I want time to think.
Give her some time to think about it.
I want some time to think.
We can come back to it too if you want.
We might have to.
Okay, let's start with this then. What changes have you seen from when you were younger, when your dad was running it, to now even? Like what changes have you seen in the area or the clientele or the business, any of that?
Yeah, I think I've just seen another generation of pet owners here as well. And whether those are the children of people my dad used to see, or just people who have moved to the area, and then we've been seeing them for so long now, we see them have kids and such too. So I don't think there's been a huge change in the community itself from our perspective. So a lot of people have pets. A lot of people, they all just treat their pets like children.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been very similar and consistent that way, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is nice. It's interesting, the legacy businesses that we've talked to are saying the same thing, like multi-generational, like they're, and that there's something there that they're still seeing multi-generations of people, like that's the same families, right, that type of thing.
Exactly, that's interesting. And Fiona and I were talking about it too, that this area hasn't changed much in the sense that, it's, kind of fewer people here, and it's kind of where are all of the customers going kind of thing. It's just such a thriving area. We're so fortunate for that.
Have there been any struggles that you faced in running the business?
Other than my ability to run? We don't
have to get into that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, the pandemic had its own challenges.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah, and but we were again very, very fortunate with that we were able to, have customers wait out in the parking lot. We'd see the animals, we'd talk to them.
Yeah, remember doing that too with my dog.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly, and we made it work, and the clients were really forgiving as well too. But what really helped with that, and the advantage of it being like an emergency clinic where you don't know your clients, is that we know them so well, is that they can trust us without having to see us face to face like that. So that was an advantage, and we were very lucky too that veterinarians very early on we were seen as an essential worker, and so we could stay open and we could help. So.
You got like all three of my questions. I didn't even have to ask them.
I wish I
Well, just going back to that, I think a lot of the reason that the people were so okay with here's my dog at the door and coming in is that before the pandemic and after the pandemic, we do a lot of stuff with them in the room, like draw blood, give the dog all the vaccines. A lot of practices don't do that. They just take the pet away.
Yeah.
So that was our benefit really, like from the get-go. They've known us for forever and they've seen us do things with their animal before, so they know what is likely happening.
Yeah.
And they probably have seen their dog like stand there, not worry about it too much, and then get a treat, so they know that we're going to be acting the same way.
That's good to hear. I'm sure that was a benefit. I had to, when we went to our vet, our our regular vet closed down during COVID, and then we had to go to a new vet and take our dog there for a treatment, and you're like, you just see her disappear. Like, we didn't know what's going on.
Exactly.
So that was a pretty tough time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about have you guys got any good stories yet? Because we can save that for the
I
end.
could do the diamond ring story and the dog. Was that here?
That was here.
Loose? No, it wasn't loose. What was that little tiny little?
A little Maltese, kind of a dogs eat everything and anything, And usually though it's a lab, and they'll go eat the same thing again all over and need surgery, etc. Well, this time was a client who called and said her dog had eaten her engagement ring. And she couldn't find it. The dog must have eaten it, and it's like, I don't know, this is a Maltese.
Yeah.
This big.
And this was a big ring.
Yeah, and a big ring. So it's like, all right, well, bring him in, let's x-ray, but I'm sure it's somewhere else, right? There's no way this Maltese ate. Well, sure enough, we x-ray it, and there's a ring about a quarter the size of the dog.
Now,
Inside.
Did it need surgery? Or
No, it didn't.
Just pooped it out?
It was already pretty
Wow.
far along, wasn't causing an obstruction. So there's only one thing you can do, right? So she had to just check each, and sure enough, it came out. It was
Remember
beautiful,
you
right?
sent me that X-ray, and I'm like, whoa! Looked like a pacifier. It was so big.
Wow.
Compared to the dog
Did you
size.
think you're like, you're fooling me, this isn't real.
Yeah,
You photoshopped this.
Exactly, that's what it looks like. Yeah, that was a good one.
That would have been,
That.
yeah.
Okay, what lessons have you learned through owning the business? Let's take this in two parts. Did your father pass on any lessons to you about running the business? We'll start with that, and then what lessons have you learned running it yourself?
Okay, yeah, he did. He tried to impart a lot. One was that, this sounds cheesy, but it's so true. We had the best clientele in the world. He had worked other places and such too, So he knew he had to compare, and he said, so just appreciate that. He was absolutely right with that. And then I think so keep everybody happy, right? Because they're such a great clientele. And then what I've learned, that it's probably more that it just suits me personally, is just keeping things quiet, small, not trying to do everything, and really focus in on the personal touch that way too.
Okay.
That's what has really suited me. I've probably learned the most.
Okay. What advice would you give, and we'll get you in a second too, but what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to start a business or starting out in veterinary sciences?
Yeah, I think as far as running a business would be to, that's a good question, because you don't want to say do the same that we've been doing, because there are different ways and better, my way's not the only way, but I think it would be that you can make it anything that you want, right? You could ramp it up here, you could start doing a lot more, you could ask the landlord, add another story, whatever, right? It would be there, you could do that. Or you have the choice, you don't have to try to see every single pet owner in Northern Virginia. You don't have to do every single type of procedure or such, and you can still feel like you're making a big difference.
Okay. Fiona, same two questions to you. What have you learned being here, and then what advice would you give?
I think my answers are pretty similar to Adam.
That's all
I
I
don't
do.
know. Yeah, I mean, he does all the management stuff, so as far as that.
Well, let me ask you this. Has anything been different than you thought it would be when you started?
No,
No?
not really.
What about initially you thought you might take referrals as a specialist?
Yeah, I quickly was too busy for that.
Right, yeah, kind of along the same
okay,
lines.
so I learned that there was plenty to do with this clientele, because, if you want to do a test and you can justify it as in it's the right thing to do for the animal, not for financial gain, then we've got a really good clientele that would be willing to explore avenues, do an endoscopy, do blood work, routinely, those sorts of things. I also learned that, you can, really have a great little practice and support your family without having a good corporate or a big scale or anything like that.
Okay.
And then probably too, I'll add in there as well too, is the staff being part of. So any advice I would impart to the next person would be that your staff is, just so important, and if you can keep you know, people here for years and years and treat them right, then that goes a long way.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next section we're going to talk about the neighborhood. So the first part, Fiona, is probably it was him growing up here, so you may not have any answers on this, but if you want to add some answers, that's fine too. So we're going to talk about the neighborhood you remember, the neighborhood you grew up with. I want you to describe that.
Okay.
And then any changes you've seen in what the neighborhood is now. Right. So like, let's start with when you were young. What do you remember? It sounds like you were in Fairfax. You grew up in Fairfax. But what do you remember about this neighborhood when you were young?
Yeah, I remember the azaleas. I would
Really?
always, one of the times I would come in, one of the many times I should say, is that afterward it'd be a Saturday, and only work in the morning, and then you'd be off in the afternoon. So then we'd drive around Arlington and look at all the beautiful old big azalea bushes.
Wow.
And that's what I remember. Yeah. So,
That's good.
That's
yeah.
sweet.
And yeah, it is very cool. And it takes such an older community, right, to have these huge bushes.
Yeah.
And I think it's very similar, other than teardowns, you know,
Yeah.
here and there. And yeah, some of the, of course, retail looking different with taller buildings
Yeah.
and such. To me, all you have to do is just go for a run in the streets back here, and it looks the exact same that I remember.
Other than we remember the pawn shop. I remember the tavern.
Yep.
Do you remember any other businesses that were in the neighborhood at that time that you guys maybe used to?
Yeah.
It doesn't. You don't have to remember them all, but like things you frequented or things that you went to.
Yeah, the 7-Eleven, just a couple down.
That was there.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's been there a long time too. Yep.
The Italian store too. It used to be where your dad would take us to lunch.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
So that's, you know,
Yeah.
certainly a wee while ago, but not like eons ago,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
20
that's
years
right.
ago.
Those are probably the two. Yeah, we'd always walk down to 7-Eleven and get a big gulp.
The kids would too. That was their
Yeah,
reward
that's right. Kids
for
would do
coming
the
in.
same.
They would go
Yeah.
get their Slurpee and
Yeah.
whatever it's called, slushy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a studio. There was a 7-Eleven next door, and I'd bring the kids after school, and we'd have to stop there first, like get a big gulp, and because that's how the only way I could keep them quiet so I could finish my day was get their 7-Eleven stop.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with a reward
Yeah.
kind of setup.
The Slurpees are magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yes.
Okay, then you came back. Sounds like you came back after college. What was it like then? Any changes you saw from still, and what's it like now then? Like, anything changed?
I haven't. Again, other than how the retail, you know, buildings look,
Yeah.
and some bigger residences, I haven't appreciated much of a change at all.
Okay. That's good because there's a lot of the businesses are worried about some changing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the building then. Family owned. Sounds like
No.
you don't own the building.
It's
Okay.
actually been leased, and the Francis family didn't even own it.
Really?
So it's been leased from the get-go from the same family.
Wow.
And that was Eddie Glover, was who I remember, and I don't know if it was in his family before, but he owned that, and it used to be a dry cleaner where the auto parts store is now, and he owned the dry cleaners.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Glover owned a lot of other buildings around here and a lot of other dry cleaners, and so he's a landlord. And his daughter and son-in-law are the current landlords now and have been for about as long as I can remember.
Oh.
Yes.
So those two buildings are connected, right? They own them. Was this empty when he had the dry cleaner? Or this was just the offices he was running out, or how did that work?
I think when the building was built, and this is a guess, but it was built and then for the veterinary clinic and the dry cleaner.
Specifically built and then leased to them. Okay. Do you know about what date that was approximately?
That the building was built, I think it was
Yeah.
49.
49?
I think it was when the business started.
Right,
It was-
when the business started.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about we talked about COVID already. Have you seen any downturns in the neighborhood or upturns, gentrification, anything that's affecting business in any way?
Nothing affecting business.
No, I haven't seen. I feel like it's been
More
again.
cars.
Or what?
More traffic trying to get
yeah.
to work. That would be the only thing.
That's
Other than
everywhere.
that,
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. But no, otherwise, I think it's just, again, other than just being into the next generation now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last question we have, and I'll ask this 2 different ways. I'm going to ask you about this. What would you say that long-lasting businesses like yours, why are long-lasting businesses like yours important to communities in Langston Boulevard? I'm going to ask you this a different way. I want you to think about it while we're talking about that. Is what have you learned from working in a long-lasting, is there anything that's different than you thought in working in this legacy business that's been here for years in the community? Start with you.
I think that just innately, I think we like consistency, and we look for that. Whether it's that you're off in college and you can go home for a home cooked meal, and there's just something that feels good about that. And I think we look for that in our businesses as well too.
Really, that's a great way to express that. Yeah,
I think so. So now, especially when a pet's involved, right? That adds that family feel to it that way too. So it's especially important then.
I'm going to finish his question before I do my question. Just that, it's like the same as you don't want to find a new hairdresser or a new doctor or a new dentist once you've found the right one. So I couldn't see a veterinary clinic being a transitory business. I mean, a transient business. It would be not, other than urgent care, you have to be there.
Well, then what's your secret to keeping them? Keeping the customers. Like, what would be, if you could say, like, what's your special sauce to keeping the customers coming back to you, to keeping these long-term relationships?
Just do a good job. Treat them as a person. Treat them as a friend. Be nice to the animal. Hopefully not mess anything up too bad. Just surround yourself with a good team. People will remember a certain receptionist, and if they're not there their normal shift, they will be concerned, and they might just be switching shifts or on vacation.
Yeah, I think, and we don't get it right all the time for sure.
No,
we mess up a lot, but I think it's that people know that we really try and we're honest. And
Not doing anything for wrong intentions.
Right. So when we do mess up, then I think they know that it was not in our heart, it was just a human mistake.
Yeah, okay.
Or life happens, It's not a machine that you're treating. It's a living, breathing thing.
Yes, that's different than selling appliances down at Cleves. So.
And I can't remember what my question was.
Oh, so your question is like, what's it been like to come into a legacy business and kind of what have you learned in doing that?
Sense of responsibility, I don't want to mess up what's really worked well. Trying to do a good job, make each other proud.
I'm glad you said
Make
that.
Jim proud from up there, Adam's dad Jim. Also we're trying to maintain it because our son might want to become a veterinarian, but he's only in high school, so he's
no pressure.
He's showing interest. There's no pressure.
Because our daughter wants nothing to do with it, so there's no pressure there.
She wants to work with 2-leggeds, not 4-leggeds.
You're like, no pressure, son, but I'm third generation.
That's right. And I could retire sometime.
Okay, anything other things you'd like to add about the business, or tell stories you might have remembered, or anything like that?
Well, we should mention Mary, because Dr. Mary Hahn, has been with us for. This is her only veterinary job.
1988 she graduated.
Wow, she's been here.
Wow. She's been here with us ever since.
That's awesome.
And
she's not here today to do the interview.
Yeah, she's always off on Thursdays, and so, but I think we can't say enough about her. And that's one of the other things that my dad said to me too. Not only is the clientele the best, but he said Mary is a godsend. So don't ever let her go.
Yeah. At 88, I mean, she's been here for a long time. She's a part of the business too. That's
So I think that's what draws a lot of clients too.
She didn't even know she wanted to be. She was finishing up vet school. She thought, I don't know that I want to be a practitioner. A lot of other things you can do as a vet. But interviewed here, got hired, and was like, well, I'll just give it a try and just see if I like it. And that was in 1988.
Wow.
I guess you liked it.
So I guess so, exactly. Yeah, fortunately started with my dad, which is a good place to start. So
we're very lucky to have her.
Okay, well, that's all I have. Any questions from you guys?
I don't think so.
Well, thank you guys very much. You got through that.